We're back to flock around the world to solve all the problems with things and stuff.
Like my name says.
Like Dustin's name says, stuff and things. Great. New moniker. Stuff and things.
Stuff and things.
Sound like a teddy bear, dude.
It's SAT. S-A-T. Stuff and things.
Holy smokes. That's too funny. So back with you, Dustin, Sat, and Alan Bondar, the Unraveler. We are here to continue. We're going to discuss where we left off last week on what fears there are for people, especially in this hybrid form of Christianity. But yeah, I think, and we'll go from there wherever it leads, obviously. But I think there's still that fear that's being created, and you were nailing it at the end there. It's everything is there's creating this competitive thing, this void inside of all of us in some ways, because we're always trying to match up to something or reach some level instead of just being happy and content with ourselves. And in a way, that's just that's a natural, I think, part of who we are to be competitive, because that's in some ways that's why we advance. That's why we've done what we've done and been able to accomplish so much. It's why science has advanced. I think people want to shine, and so they do work and study and try to figure things out. There's a reason. There's a prize for discovering things. And then sports is just a natural phenomenon that we have come up with because it's just part of who we are. So I'm not sure it's necessarily a bad thing, as long as we can recognize that we're not less than or somehow inferior because we may have lost a match in something or whatever. But creating this void in Christianity that says you're insufficient without this something, and in that case it's Jesus. Like I would say that would be an equal problem in anything outside of religion too. If we're telling people, well, unless you do this, you're just not good enough. I don't care for that. And I think that would be the same problem.
Because the analogy that you gave of sports and stuff is, I think that would need to be clarified a little. It's not that I'm insufficient if I lose a game. It would be I'm insufficient if I am not playing football. If I am not a football player, I am not worth anything.
Right.
So as long as I am a football player, the ups and downs of the games is just a part of being a football player. But the moment I cannot play football, I am nothing, and I should cease to exist.
That's a good. That's good. That's a good clarification. Yep.
Yeah. So that would be the difference. And I think what I was referring to is the cancer of social media. That I think that's why I won't let my boys have it. I won't let them do it, man, because the stuff I see is just, man, and I'm glad I can see through it. And I use social media for business. It is predominantly for lead generation in my company. And I post things to help encourage people who are suffering like I used to suffer. But I see it every single day, so somebody posting with a picture in front of a new Range Rover with a bow on it or something, and they're all dressed up to the nines and making themselves appear a certain way, and something like, this is it, life is good, something like that, right? And the message that is conveyed in images like that with those little captions is, life is not good without that. And then somebody else scrolling social media, they're sitting there doing this, and they look at that and they go, man, here I am driving a beat up truck. I don't have enough to get that. Man, look at how nice she looks. Gosh, she had plastic surgery. I don't have plastic surgery. I'm fat. I have cellulite. And that's the stuff that happens, man. And they suddenly feel less, and they continue to scroll. And they're just, men, women, boys, girls, everybody does it. They're continuing to cultivate this feeling of insufficiency because they don't have that, or they are not that, or they're not doing this, or they are not doing that, rather than just realizing I am absolutely and completely perfect exactly how I am and exactly where I am as well. I mean, dude, I tell people, because I used to eat out of dumpsters. I literally used to eat out of dumpsters and lived on the streets, and that was my life. If my life stopped right where it was right now, and this is all that I ever had in life, it never got any better than this. Man, it is the most perfect life I have ever had or ever could have. And it doesn't have anything to do with the stuff. It has to do with how I feel in here. I am at peace. And I never had that in religion. And I don't think religion cultivates that. Social media certainly doesn't cultivate that. Our culture does not cultivate that. And so I believe people gravitate to religion to find that missing thing. And so religion will say, oh, yeah, here's a community and a purpose. Woo, rah, rah. And you're going to have people cheering you on. And we'll plug you into a life group. And, ooh, you're a life group leader. And, ooh, look, you're this. And there it is. And then what happens is the pictures and the message begin to change a little bit. The image stays the same. Ooh, look at me with this new thing or this success in business. And now the caption changes. God is so good. God is blessing me. The caption changes. Well, what is the message conveyed in that? Well, if I don't have that, God must not be blessing me. Well, why not? Why is God not blessing me? Why am I struggling so bad and I cannot pay my bills? I don't have a car. My dog just left. My wife left. My kid's sick in the hospital. I am so faithful to God. I'm praying endlessly and I love God. Why is God not blessing me? Why don't I have that? And that's the problem, that those theological propositions, this meme theology, that is the problem with those things, is they convey something that people don't realize. And it's sick.
Yeah. And I think that new brand of Christianity definitely, that's the way it looks in church.
Oh, they're the worst.
That's exactly how it looks. There's no deception about it. Like, it's just flat out. That's it. Like, if you want to be blessed, you got to be a life group leader. You got to be in a ministry. You got to show up every week, whatever it is, and be in the praise band. I don't know. It's definitely all about trying to achieve some certain status.
Well, look at, man, you will know this. You of all people will know what I'm about to say is true. Look at what happened around 2005 when the Rick Warren and the Saddleback and the those churches got really, really big. Look at what happened with the message. It was no longer theologically driven and expositional and holiness oriented, all those things that we talk about that were important to the church back then. That began to change. Then it became seeker sensitive. We need to be seeker sensitive. And the message began to change. And you could buy Rick Warren's toolbox. That's a real thing. It had prepared sermons, and you could just parrot those sermons. You don't need to know anything about the Bible, because the Bible doesn't really matter. It's kind of irrelevant at that point, because the topics of the sermons became 7 steps to a healthy marriage, 7 steps to godly finances, 7 steps to being a good parent. Everything was self-help step sermons about how to have or how to accomplish. And it has just gotten worse in that vein since then.
Yeah, and since that big push of the purpose-driven life, I mean, that has exploded in Christianity. It's become like a centerpiece, like not necessarily his 5 purposes, whatever, because people debate that and say it's this or it's that. But the whole idea of having some sort of purpose for your life, God has your purpose set out for you, and you just have to do it. And so, some dictator up there tells me what I'm supposed to do with my life. And if I don't achieve the things that he says I'm supposed to do, I must be some kind of failure. I remember one of the things that I always struggled with in as I was a Christian, and Doug and Rick Warren's purposes was outreach, evangelism. I just was never really good at that. And I thought that it was some big weakness in me, like something was wrong with me because I couldn't win people to the Lord. And you're supposed to have all 5 of these, and they're all equally important, but I couldn't do it. So the way you accomplish that is you become a part of the outreach events, and you go and you're doing it as long as you're handing out an invite card. That's outreach. You're doing it. Now it's not about being successful in it. It's just about handing out a card, and now you've achieved some status because you've handed out a card or whatever. But definitely there's that purpose goal that you're talking about that's set by somebody else, and you're trying to achieve it. And if you don't hit it, if you're not that football player, like you're saying, then you have this emptiness inside, like something is missing. And really that should never have been placed in you to begin with. Like, there is no given purpose or goal to anybody on this planet that the universe doesn't give two shits what we do. There is no set thing for me that I'm supposed to do.
There's not an expectation.
Not an expectation. I get to dictate what I want to do.
Right.
And as long as I'm doing what I want to do, I'm perfectly happy. And right now I'm doing what I want to do. I'm enjoying it. I'm not trying to meet somebody else's goal or somebody else's standard for me. I'm just doing what I like, and something I'm personally good at. And, obviously your upbringing, your culture, your society, the things you did growing up, whatever you did all your life, those are going to influence your desires because it's just a part of who you are. There's not really much escaping that. So certainly some of the goals that I've set for myself to achieve, they're there because it's part of who I am. Like, being a pastor my whole life, my life revolved around the Bible. It revolved around Christianity. And that's all I knew, man. That was it. So for me, I thoroughly enjoy being able to still take part in that world, but from the other side, it gives me joy. Like, I thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing. But I just, I'm not comparing myself to somebody else's goal. I've personally found a method that I like, something that I want to do, something unique to me, and I'll do the best that I can with it. And when you don't hit your litmus points, then that drives you to work harder and stuff. And I don't see any problem with that. But I'm not somebody else. I'm not living for some other goal. I'm literally doing what I want to do. And I'm enjoying it. And I don't, that to me is significantly different than some dictator telling you your purposes in life or your purpose in life and what you have to be doing. And I think that's one of the reasons the hybrid Christians continue to stay in it, because without doing these purposes, without fulfilling somebody else's goal for me, am I going to be sufficient on my own? And they dread, as I would have, I think, as a Christian, you dread the whole idea of not having Jesus, because without him, especially in the way we were raised, where it's driven into you, and then in our theology as we grew up, driven into you that you're worthless without Jesus. So that was especially hard for me. Losing Jesus would have cost me everything, and it did. It was really hard to figure out who I was without Jesus. So that was a big deal. But even in an underhanded way, without maybe even realizing, that message of positivity that says, oh, you just need more of Jesus, more of Jesus, more of Jesus. Well, why do you need more of Jesus? If you need more of Jesus, it's saying there's something insufficient in you. So there is an indirect message of insufficiency there. It's just they've wrapped it in a bow now, and they've made it sound pretty, but it's still there. And I think that is what's causing so much of the fear in people, and why they remain a Christian. Even if they don't believe in God, even if they're like half-hearted about it, there's something in them that says, I'm just not good enough without this. And I need to be here because I'm not good enough without it. And I think that's why many Christians still need to redesign the Bible to satisfy them. Some version of Jesus from the Bible. They just pick verses and find the version of Jesus that they like because they know they need Jesus for some reason. So they'll create the Jesus they like, which is really bizarre, but somehow they have to square the dissonance that's going on in their mind with a created Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, at least the version of Christianity you and I came from was honest about its declarations and its lines in the sand. I mean, they were very honest and very clear, you know. You knew where you stood. This new version is, you know, well, oh, you don't believe that? Well, that's all right. It doesn't really matter because
Right.
it doesn't really matter if you believe that. You don't need to. As long as you are a Jesus person.
And
Everything else.
that's just it. Like it's almost like it's gone from God bless America, from God, it's come to Jesus. Now Jesus is just a big focus. It's all about Jesus. And you literally can have Jesus without God. Frankly, I'm not even sure how many hybrid Christians today even are aware that Jesus is God. What, like the hypostatic union, what is that?
Yeah. Well, they're not. Yeah, I mean, they're not. I mean, that I'm telling you, man, I've had a lot of conversations with the hybrid Christians, a lot of them. I mean, you know, a good 3 or 4 or more a week, and none of them, absolutely none of them, know about it. I'll start asking questions like that. Well, if Jesus, who is God, because the hypostatic union says, and they're like, what? And I'm like, well, I mean, don't you believe that Jesus is God? Well, I mean, I don't know. They care nothing about that. They don't care anything about these alleged biblical claims, because I don't think the Bible says anything about it, but the historic Christian construct, which even that is just not true, because you and I would feel like saying the historic Christian construct says this because that's orthodoxy, but even that throughout Christian history changed. You know what I mean? That has always been such a weird thing to me, is looking at the fluid nature of orthodoxy throughout Christian history. It has changed, which that is really messed up, because orthodoxy is the ultimate line in the sand for who gets heaven and who does not.
Oh, agreed. And I'll tell you, one of the weirdest comments, because I listen to these debates and conversations that atheists and Christians have all the time. One of the most baffling comments I hear from Christians all the time is, science is always changing. It's always advancing and changing its mind about things. God, we have a God who never changes. God's word never changes. And yet, you just made the point, nothing is the same at all. We have constantly changing in your views in Christianity, and you critique science for changing its mind on things as if that's a bad thing, and then you turn around and do the same thing. It's the same critique as when a Christian says to me, "Oh, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist." I thought faith was a good thing, and now you're critiquing me for having faith and too much at that. And then if I turn around and say, "What is so? Do you not have faith? Is faith bad?" Oh no, it's good for me, but bad for you. What is faith? Is faith good or is faith bad? You don't get to just have special pleading because you like it in your version, but not the. So I mean, yeah, it's changing constantly. I mean, you can't. It's almost not even recognizable. In fact, the generation of Christianity we grew up in was hardly recognizable to the one centuries before that. I mean, you remember the culture wars. Holy shit, man. Like, music in the church was the battle that we were growing up in. Oh my goodness, culture wars over that was just unbelievable. Churches splitting over what fucking song you sang. Like,
bro. Well, and remember Amy Grant getting crucified for
switching over to the secular?
Well, no, because she either got pregnant or got a divorce. I can't remember.
Oh, the divorce. Yes, she got a divorce. Yeah.
And she got crucified for that within the Christian community. I mean, it was incredible, or remember when Cross Movement and Lecrae and groups like that came out, and those aren't Christian. Well, those aren't Christian. because
Right.
it's hip. I mean, yeah, dude, it's just, yeah. But
It's
to your point, even 20 years ago, man, 20 years ago, the Christianity that you and I were involved in looks nothing like it did 20 years before that. And the Christianity today looks nothing like what you and I came from.
Yep.
And in 20 years from now, it is going to look, I'm telling you, man, I am absolutely and completely convinced that it is going to keep dying out, and it is going to become this just unbelievably faded image of what it once was, because there is too much information available now, man. The availability of information is the undoing of Christianity and religion in general, I think.
I have to agree. It definitely is. And it should have been by now. In fact, I mean, I think that was like when Nietzsche talked about God being dead. I mean, he wasn't actually proclaiming that there was a God that died. He was simply discussing the fact that because of the information age, it was so obvious that people were starting to lose their need for faith in a God because science was explaining it. So it really should have died then entirely. But I think this fear is just so, it just makes you impotent. It really does. It makes you impotent, and you don't know how to move away from it without feeling like you're going to lose something and miss out on something or pay the consequence of something. Some sort of fear there is holding you intact. And in fact, like people like me who, even if my parents didn't mean to, I was groomed to be a pastor. I didn't.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, dude, I don't think I had a choice. And when I say that, I don't mean they put a gun to my head and said, "You will be a pastor." I mean, everything that they had me do growing up, every lesson I learned, all the things, even to, when I went to school, in high school, whatever, and I was like struggling with evolution when they would teach it because I was a Christian. Their teaching was, that's just those evil scientists trying to, take you away from Jesus. Just pass the test. You don't have to learn all that. So I didn't. And so, I mean, like, I was literally just groomed to just know the Bible. That was all that mattered in life. Just learn the Bible. Learn the Bible. That's all you care about. Just love God, love Jesus, go to church every day, whatever. So what was I supposed to do? I mean, literally my whole education growing up was so Bible and God focused, and I poo-pooed everything else because it didn't really matter. What's it matter? All that matters is that you live forever with Jesus. What's all this stuff going to matter? In fact, anything that does matter, you'll learn in heaven anyway, right? So, I mean, that was the mindset. So man, people like me, like Don Preston, this is our life, dude. This is what we do. This is all we knew. And so, you know how hard it is? You know how much fear there is to say, my God, I just built this whole career, and like that, it's going to be gone if I turn away from this faith. That's a fear, dude. That's huge.
Oh yeah.
And
Well,
it's unfair because like you weren't given the choice.
yeah. Yeah, and that's why I always say that I think for pastors it's position and paycheck. It's one of those. It's position or paycheck,
Yep.
because if you have that position as pastor and you're seen as this person of authority, and you have this knowledge, and whether people want to say it or not, they view those people as having a more direct connection with God, and this knowledge of the Bible and all this, it's prestige. It's either that or it comes down to a paycheck, because especially think about, Jim Palmer talks about this. They make a lot of money, bro.
Oh yeah.
And
Well, what we do, yeah. I mean, even as a full preterist pastor, and I had to work hard to get to that point. But I mean, I was making enough of a salary for Galen and I to be happy and to live fairly well. I mean, I wasn't rich by any means at all. And you always have to constantly be chasing people to give or whatever, and it's a little bit of work. But at the end of the day, dude, it was kind of a cush job.
It is.
I mean, I enjoyed it so much, dude. It wasn't
you get to sit home and study. And
I know, with football on in the background. I mean, like, it was kind of cush. Take people out to dinner or lunch, and the church is paying for it. You're eating all these meals, and even as a pastor, you get to take kids to fucking like amusement parks and shit. It's like, I mean, it's a pretty dope job. Let's go paintballing, like whatever. And they pay for it. I mean, it's a fun job. I mean, as long as you're teaching something in the Bible, and actually, I went the extra mile as a youth pastor because I just love the Bible, so I wanted the teens to learn it. But you think that was necessary? I probably could have gotten away with just entertaining them and having a great time, as long as they're growing and having a like 70, 80 youth person. As long as you're seeing teens coming, you're doing a great job, Alan. You know what I'm saying?
As long as you babysit and amuse them to keep the parents happy, everything's good.
Get their parents in here because they're givers.
Yeah,
you need that. Yeah, man, that's the job, and it's sad because when you're in it, you suppress all of those thoughts that we're expressing now because they make the position sound ridiculous, and it is ridiculous.
It is.
But you can't think that way because then you think you're not doing something morally sound, and you're not doing something.
Imagine this. Imagine being a youth pastor who taught the kids to do this on their own so that they don't need you. That youth group wouldn't last very long.
Yeah, right.
The whole structure, which is built off of Rome's empire. It's the hierarchy of Rome. That's what the church models after. The whole structure is meant to cultivate an interdependence. People aren't independent. They are dependent.
Yes. I tell you, more probably than any other organization or society in the world, religion makes you more dependent than anything. It is absolutely a dependence organization. It is. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why it is so hard to accept the fallacies when you hear them. And all right, so fellowship community is huge. That's a centerpiece of religion, particularly Christianity. Again, I can only really speak to that much. Other than that, I hear things from people, but I can experientially speak to Christianity, and that's why I talk about it so much. But I think most religions parallel it in a lot of ways. But that community is an essential element, and that's a big fear factor. People are afraid to lose their community.
It is.
So, and it's interesting that I have heard of people who have, after they've left Christianity and they're an atheist now, they have found other communities that they're a part of, and they really enjoy them, but they say it's never been quite as amazing or powerful as it was in the small groups.
Well, but it's different, man, because I think that those groups cultivate a dopamine rush that makes you dependent on continuing to get that dopamine rush.
I agree.
And so you have to have it rather than learning to be perfectly okay on your own in silence and solitude, which is a beautiful thing, or okay with just the nucleus of your family, whatever that family looks like. I also think there is a tremendous amount of power in whittling down your community to just a small handful of people rather than a gaggle of people that you don't actually know. Because let me tell you something that's crazy, bro. When we left the church, and I was a teacher, I was well known. Everybody knew me as the Bible guy. Everybody knew me as friendly, blah, blah. Guess how many people called me when we left?
Zero. Yep. And I'm glad you said, so you read my mind. Like, that's exactly where I was going with it, is that I hear that. And I think what's happening there is it's the parallel to romancing the drink that you talk about.
It is.
Because that's exactly what's happening. You're remembering something that isn't actually as good as you remember it to be. Think it was great because the memories are, number one, they're being reconsolidated now. And so you remember it in a way that it isn't accurate. But you also forget how harmful it actually was. I think one of the reasons why so many people who managed to quit drinking or smoking even using the Alan Carr method, why some of them actually go back is because, and one of the things he says in the book very clearly is, when those moments come, he says, remember there was a reason you quit. Obviously you quit for a reason. Like, you knew it wasn't bad for you. So when that moment comes and you're romancing it, don't go back, because you know there's a reason you quit. You're remembering it wrong. And I think that's what's happening here is they think something was better than it actually was, but there was a reason they left, because at the end of the day, it just wasn't healthy. And so and you had made another point in there that I wanted to comment on. What was it you said about the high, right? The dopamine high or whatever, because you're there. And so that's all part of it too, because when you're in a small group at church, they're still feeding you the Jesus message. They're still giving you that hit that makes you feel like you've had what you need to fill that emptiness. And it's because you're not satisfied with yourself. You're not content in who you are, as you were saying. And that's because they've deceived your mind into thinking you have this emptiness, you have a void, and you need it to be filled. That's exactly what all addictions do. They make you feel like there's something missing, and you have to constantly be getting that hit to keep it up. Yep. You got to get rid of that false void that you don't actually have. Become content in yourself, and you no longer need Jesus, and you no longer need that group. And let me tell you, you're absolutely right about that zero thing. I'm with you, man. I'd rather have, and which I do now, very few friends, but man, I know they're there for me. They love me, they care for me. You being one of them, that people would, like, if something happened, I know at the drop of a hat, they'd be there for me, and vice versa.
Yep.
These people in these groups, they don't care about you. They care about you as long as you're a part of their club. As long as they're going well, and as long as they don't get disturbed, and as long as their schedule's not bothered. That's not genuine friendship. That's not community.
Yeah, all Christian love is contingent.
It's all contingent. Absolutely. Now, you might have a friend or two in there because you're friends anyway, and so that's going to be the exception to the rule, but that is not the norm. Yeah. So you're absolutely right, man. And I totally think that's one of the biggest deceptions that people have about leaving the community at church, is they think they're going to miss it, and they're scared to leave it. And I'm like, you only think you're going to miss it because you think it's greater than it actually is. Yep. What you're seeing there is a facade. It's not real.
Yep.
So anyway, well, I guess we've hit our time. We're 2 minutes over, but that was fun. I'm glad we got to talk about that. We rounded that conversation out. As always, I feel better. We've solved all the world's problems. Thank you, Stuff and Things, for being a part of this conversation today. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Please comments, like, subscribe. Can't tell you how much that helps us. We would really appreciate it. And we will see you next week. And remember, we don't flock around.